Hey, sassy stuff, what's up? I'm Molly, back with Emma. Today we're going to have a little bit of a locker room talk, and a locker room talk that's quite interesting because it's my favorite team. We have a rumor, a big rumor, that Texas is dropping about $40 million on their roster this year per the NIL. That's a lot of money. That is a ton of money. And, Emma and I have been texting about it, and we thought we had to come to the locker room to talk about this. So, Emma, tell me more details about this. What does this mean for the team as a whole coming into the season if the rumor is true and they genuinely are spending $40 million on the roster?
Well, I mean, Ohio State spent 20 million on their roster last year and won a national championship. So if that's true and you guys win the natty at the end of the day, it'll prove you can buy yourself a natty. So it's a very interesting development. Obviously, there needs to be some sort of cap like they do in the NFL. Maybe have it be like if you accumulate enough money, then you can spend more like they do in the NFL, but there has to be some limitation on it because 40 million is getting a little bit out of hand. I thought 20 million was a lot, but I mean, this is just crazy.
I just wanted to break this down because I remember growing up, we moved from Texas to the Carolinas, and like my mom would be so frustrated with like how the schools were running their programs. She's like, no, the football program funds the school. Like she just kept saying that. And it's because traditionally Texas always had a program that was funding the school. And I just want to hit these numbers with you guys really quick. So in the year of 2024, the total athletics revenue for Texas University was $331.9 million dollars. Of that, the football program brought in $205 million. Dollars. They have $40 million dollars to drop on this program.
Yeah.
Like they absolutely have it. They have upgraded their facilities in the last couple of years, which obviously was a big investment, but that's already paid for. So they're making a lot of money. Like, it's okay if they spend like, I'm gonna Dave Ramsey this and say it's absolutely okay to spend 40 million when you've made over 300. So, I'm looking at this, increase in total revenue, $61 million dollars over the last year. So they made 61 more than they did the year before. 48 million in technically for football revenue. That was 61 overall for athletics, but 48 for football. And then overall athletic department profit about 10 million. So they do genuinely have the money. I firmly believe that they can afford this and they can move forward with this. I think so many college athletes genuinely do want to play for Texas because they have some of the best facilities. They have some of the best coaching staffs. Like they take care of their players. And so like look at what Quinn Ewers said. He said, I didn't want to stay in college if I couldn't play for Texas. So I had to go. And obviously that was a whole debacle with how much money he was making. However, at the end of the day, when we're looking at the NIL, Texas has a lot of money. They can afford it. Like, let's just let them live their life if they can drop it. Obviously, if they're going into like major debt or they don't generate enough revenue, no. But like Ohio State, you just said they dropped 20 million last year. What's wrong with Texas?
I don't know. It's just my whole thing would be like if Texas were to win a national championship this year and they spent double what Ohio State did, then you're like, okay, well, you can buy yourself this national championship. And then it kind of gets in this murky area. Is that right in a way? But what is right in this new age of NIL and transfer portal era, there's really no rules and regulations. And until we get that, I think do it. I mean, there's nothing stopping you. And Texas has really been on that edge the last couple of years of getting to that national championship. They were in the semis the year before and this year, and so they're right there. And so if they want to spend I can't even say a little more money, a lot more money on their roster and their players to make it over that hump, then why not? But at the same time, it makes me feel a little icky because I didn't like it when Ohio State did it. But Nick Saban did say, like, yes, you can pay all the players in the world, but then they have to play and they have to mesh and you have to have a great scheme around them. So at the end of the day, like paying them the most is not going to win you the game. You still have to create a good team dynamic. You have to have good synergy. You have to have a good scheme each and every week. You're playing in the SEC. Granted, again, I think Texas has a pretty manageable road to get to the playoffs again.
Yeah, when originally came to Texas, Texas agreed to pay him $1,000,000. But then obviously Arch is a Manning, so he's going to have brand deals that he can collect money on. But he's bringing in a whopping $6.6 million right now per year, between Texas and his NIL collective. And he's obviously now he's a Red Bull partner, a Waymo partner. I mean, like he's bringing in the brand deals left and right. Um, you know, I'm indifferent to this because it's like I am in a way I'm not anti NIL because I do think that players should be paid and et cetera, but I am this like it's hard because then you do look at stories like Quinn Ewers and he's making less money in the NFL than he would have if he would have stayed in college. And so it's tough for me because I'm like, you know, I go back and forth, but then I remember some of these guys aren't gonna go to the NFL. Like this is their only chance to make this money.
Yeah, I agree, and it is interesting, going from NFL to college nowadays, with how much money they're making in either one as a rookie in the NFL versus as a junior, senior in who's proven themselves in college football. Looking at Carson Beck, who's now making 4 million at Miami. It is interesting. Georgia and I did talk about it when we were doing our draft recap video, and she was like, Tyrion Arnold, who is at the Lions, he said, yes, college is amazing and you can make a lot of money in college, but NFL is a career. And so he
Mhm.
wanted to get that career started despite having another year of eligibility. So it's just what you prioritize more. But then I look at it as your career could end at any moment. This is not a safe game by any means. It just came out too that Jordan Travers, who was the Florida State quarterback, just retired without ever playing in the NFL. He was taken, but his injury to his leg never healed. And so he was like, I'm done. And so he was at Florida State and that was it. And so this career could end at any moment. And so I'm like, if you can make money doing what you do because you do it well, then do it. And whether you want to stay in college and make that money as long as you can, as long as you have eligibility, I have no problem with that. Or if you want to go off and you're like, this is my career, this is my future, and I want to do that, then do it. I don't care either way, really. I think both are valid reasons for either staying and making a ton of money or going and starting your career in the NFL. So I think it's an interesting concept nowadays because you can make money in college, like so much more money or money on the books. They were paying players before, but it was a little under the table. But looking at Texas's roster, it's estimated that defensive tackles make anywhere from 500,000 to 800,000, starting quarterbacks around 1 million, wide receivers, edge rushers, tight ends up to and over 500,000. So, I mean, just alone, the GM estimated at least 10 players on the roster are making over and around 1 million each. So, I mean, just that is 12 million off the board if you take it and then paying all the additional players on that roster. I mean, you can get up to 35, 40 really, really easily. So,
And that's just their salary roster. Like,
yeah,
these kids are making, like I just said, I mean, Arch Manning's a Red Bull partner. Like, they're generating income. This is nobody is hurting for money in this situation. But, once again, it's like when you look at a corporate breakdown, like, how much do you spend on payroll versus how much you're making? And it's like, "Yep, I'm gonna spend 25% of my income on my payroll." And that's what they've done here. And so, and like you just said, it's like just the starters. I mean, that's literally 10 to 15 million just gone off, like, off the top. So it's a lot of money. Like, $1,000,000 is a lot of money.
it's just crazy. And Open Door CEO Blake Lawrence, he said the Texas One Fund ranks third nationally in total NIL compensation, total NIL deals, total commercial deals, NIL deals to women. So across the board, they're paying their players in any sport good money for what they do. And you know what? At a program like Texas, I think that's fantastic that these athletes who are going to a sensational program are getting compensated for what they do. So it is interesting. I do think there will be regulations put in place at some point. When that will be, who knows? So while you can make the money that you can get, I have no problem with it. And when it comes to staying in college, Texas is a great place to stay at if they want you to continue there because they can pay you. Carson Beck obviously wasn't either, he didn't wanna stay at Georgia anymore or Georgia didn't want him anymore, and he's like, "Okay, great. I don't wanna go to the NFL yet, so let me go to Miami and make 4,000,000." I have no problem with that, and that's off the top, and like you said, these boys are all getting brand deals, endorsements, they all have TikToks and make money doing that, so it is really interesting to see, but again, if Texas is actually paying 35 to 40 and they win the national championship, then you go into this murky area of, can I just buy myself a national championship? And that's when I will have pause with the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely it's it's like the non-union version of football.
Yeah.
It's the Wild West. Like you can go do it's just it's just not regulated. Like there's
Mhm.
really not any regulation to it. And so which I think gets weird because I think anything with a lot of money, whether it's like investment banking or real estate, like all of these things, like they have regulations. Any professional sport has regulations. They have salary caps. So I think, we're coming, like you just said, coming into a little bit of a murky area. We also could not win a national champion, which would suck. It would just suck if we didn't, especially investing in a program like this. But um, I we're just gonna have to see how this year goes.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting, if this is true, but also it's not just Texas, obviously, Ohio State spends big on their roster. All the big teams in the SEC are spending a lot of money on their roster, so these teams are not hurting for money and they're using it, hopefully wisely, bringing in players that really mesh with their program. So, I mean, I'm excited. I'm ready for football. This is the time of the year after the NFL draft. I'm like, okay, I'm ready for my games to start up again. I'm ready to see what everyone's made of. You hear everything out of spring practice, you get all excited. So I'm ready to see these teams play. I know we have a few more months to wait, but we're right around the corner now. And so, seeing how much teams are spending, seeing how much these kids are making, it's like, okay, let's see if it's worth it. Let's see if they show out. Let's see how Manning plays. I'm so excited to see him as the starter of Texas, see what he does, see what the returning players bring to the table, what they bring to the locker room as a whole, see how Sark goes about this year. So I'm really excited for this team, but I'm just ready for football. Let's get playing.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining our very interesting locker room talk today. Let us know your comments, thoughts, feelings down below. We're curious as to how you're feeling about some of these salary increases, some of this budgeting happening in the NIL. Let us know your comments and thoughts. Please like, subscribe, follow our channel, and catch us next week.